The Ricoh GR4 is taking the street photography world by storm. A perfectly engineered compact camera with some serious street credentials. I can see why everyone wants one. Well, instead of spending $1,500 on one, I went down to the camera graveyard, dug up the head of a Magnum Photos prodigy, and stuck it to the body of the local village idiot, to create what is my fake Ricoh GR4. It's alive! Usually when I try an older mirrorless camera like this, I'm often amazed at how modern and up-to-date they feel in terms of features, but in this case, the Olympus E-PL6 actually feels much older than you might think it is. This camera is from 12 years ago, back when I was making stop motion videos on DSLR cameras and I had a full head of hair. I actually picked up this E-PL6 in Tokyo for the equivalent to 80 British pounds, which already seemed like a good deal, and then when I quickly checked the price this was going for on eBay, I saw they're going for about 150 to 200 pounds, depending on the lens bundle and the condition of the camera. So because of the great deal I got on this camera, I ended up going with the Lumix 14mm f2.5 lens, just so I can convince myself I'm shooting on a Ricoh GR4.
I sleep in a racing car, do you?
With this camera and lens combination, we now have a small mirrorless camera much like the Ricoh GR4, with the same 28mm full frame field of view as the Ricoh GR4's fixed lens. However, these cameras are far from equal in every way. Just taking the sensor and resolution as an example, the Ricoh GR4 has a 26 megapixel APS-C size sensor, whereas the E-PL6 only has a 16 megapixel 1/3 size sensor. So considering the low resolution sensor and the 12 years age difference between these two cameras, the E-PL6 must be pretty bad for street photography, right?
That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
Sure, the Ricoh GR4 has a few tricks up its sleeve, like 53 gigs of internal storage, a built-in ND, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, a leaf shutter, and most importantly, the focus mode that makes street photographers wet themselves.
Snap!
Ricoh's snap focus mode is one of the key features that make their GR cameras stand out for street photography, mimicking the method of zone focusing that street photographers have used on rangefinder cameras and SLRs for years. Just go see this video up here if you want a very boring explanation of zone focusing. So as well as traditional autofocus and manual focus as you might be used to, snap focus really sells this camera to street photographers. But can the E-PL6 actually recreate the snap focus function with its kind of outdated tech? Before I show you the snap focus solution that I have on the Olympus E-PL6, I first want to talk to you about a website building solution, and that is Squarespace. If you don't have a website for your photography, you are missing out. It's your unique home on the internet for your fans to enjoy and support your work. Squarespace removes all of the headaches. You can even choose to create a fully custom website with Blueprint AI, tailored to your style and personality. You can update your fans easily via an email newsletter using Squarespace's email campaign tools. You can write, publish, and view your analytics right in your Squarespace dashboard. Try Squarespace for free at squarespace.com. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/GeorgeHolden to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. While Olympus didn't create their own specific version of something called Snap Focus, luckily for us, Olympus have always given us the opportunity to be able to use custom buttons in our cameras, even with the E-PL6 from 2013. So we can just go into our custom buttons menu and then change something like our record button, which we're not going to be using for street photography, to manual focus. And with this, we can simply create our own method of snap focus by shooting first in autofocus, focusing at the ground maybe 2 meters ahead of you, and then tapping your record button to go back into manual focus. When you combine this with an aperture of f4, f5.6, taking advantage of that 1/3 sensor's deeper depth of field, then we have our own equivalent to snap focus. We're not going to have the exact focus indicators and fancy tricks that the Ricoh GR4 might have, but we're going to get the same effect for street photography. Now, as well as our makeshift snap focus, the E-PL6 also shares a few crucial features that the Ricoh GR4 has that are going to make it an easy decision for you. Features like a touchscreen for setting your autofocus point, face detect autofocus, and in-body image stabilization. Now, whereas the Ricoh GR4 has 5 axes of IBIS, the E-PL6 only has 3 axes of IBIS. So you'll always stay steady, like a chicken. And actually, to my surprise, there are a couple of features that the E-PL6 wins on compared to the Ricoh GR4. And yes, I was a bit shocked as well. The first is we actually have a faster burst mode than the Ricoh GR4. The Ricoh GR4 has 4 FPS burst mode, whereas the E-PL6 has 8 FPS, which can be quite handy when you're shooting fast-moving subjects. And also, we have a fully tilting LCD, which when paired with that touchscreen for autofocus settings actually makes this a much more smooth shooting experience for that waist level shooting angle, compared to the Ricoh GR4, which only has a fixed LCD screen. Quick one from me before we move on: if you're enjoying this video and haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please remember to hit the subscribe button and like this video. It really helps share these videos with the world. Is this camera actually just a bit too annoying to use though? Is it a little bit old and outdated and you should just use your phone? Well, I think the benefits outweigh its quirks, and we have to mention the quirks. The first of which that annoys me quite a bit is not having any dials. We don't have a front dial or a rear dial where you would expect them. Instead, to change things like shutter speed and aperture, we're using the D-pad. The D-pad combined with this little wheel of doom that we can use to change our aperture while we're using up and down the D-pad for our shutter speed. This isn't perfect. It does kind of remind me of shooting on a very old compact camera, but honestly, once you get used to it in the first 30 minutes of using this camera, it kind of becomes an afterthought. I'd be lying if I said I was surprised by the image quality from this camera, because for me, 16 megapixels on a 4/3 sensor has often felt like the sweet spot for street and travel photography. Sure, there have been times when an EVF could have been handy on this camera, but I found myself shooting with the waist level LCD most of the time. I did set my aperture to around f4 to make sure I capitalized on that deeper depth of field that we get from this sensor size, and honestly this felt like shooting with any other 4/3 sensor camera, whether it's the GX80, the Pen F, whatever you might choose. While the shutter on this camera is a little bit louder than I'd prefer and we don't have silent mode, in these busier street scenes, luckily I could get away with kind of just being a typical tourist and having a loud but small old camera. And if you like the color you're seeing in these images, you can pick up my Kodak film stock presets, my Fujifilm film stock presets, and my naturally filmic presets. And you can save when you buy all 3 packs together in the 3-pack bundle, and viewers of this video can save an extra 20% by using this unique code at checkout. These are some of the best film simulation presets you can buy, and I use these in 100% of the images you've seen in this video, on my Instagram, and in my website portfolio. So I'll drop a link in the description below for you to check these out. From these images, could you still justify going out to spend the $1,500 you need for a Ricoh GR4 compared to this E-PL6? Well, yeah, of course, there are some features the Ricoh GR4 has that this camera does not have. If all you want is an affordable setup that you can stick in a jacket pocket for a normal, everyday day of photography, then I think the E-PL6 and other EPL cameras are great contenders for this, especially when you pair them with something like the 14mm 2.5 or the 17mm 2.8, if you don't mind, one of the slowest lenses I've ever used. And I really like going back to cameras like this, even when I get to test the newer cameras, the big sensor cameras, and whatever else I have the opportunity to shoot with. I love coming back to cameras like this because they put on limitations that I have to work with. It's like going back to shooting film, although this is not a film-like camera in any way, but I love having things that I have to work around that kind of like add character to my shooting experience. It's a little bit more like driving an old banger of a car that has some character to it, rather than driving something brand new with lane assist and assisted braking. It just takes away all the fun. But of course, we have other options too. If this doesn't really float your boat and you want another camera that fits in your pocket, check out this video next. It's tiny, goes with the same lenses, and I think it's well worth checking out.